I occasionally forget why I love anime as much as I do. On a daily basis, anime keeps me entertained with its generic shonen and cliché-filled fanservice shows, but a film like Koe no Katachi immediately reminds me of what anime is truly capable of. This movie is something everyone should experience. The cinematography was done in the typical outstanding fashion Kyoto animation is known for, with creative shots of hands, legs, and framing. The soundtrack was utilized phenomenally by implementing several dissonant tracks that either sounded intentionally broken up or muffled, and there has never been a disability handled so well in anime up until now. Sayori Hayami took on an incredibly difficult role and is now a voice actor I can say I thoroughly respect. But it was hard for me to find the resolve to start this film. Although I had never read the source material, the subject matter alone was more than enough of a reason to assume this movie would be emotionally exhausting. And it was. The first 10 minutes of Koe no Katachi told such a heart-wrenching story in such a short amount of time that I was deeply worried if I would be able to handle the emotional weight of what was to come. The aptly named film is about the true harm that can come from not speaking up and the power your words have on others when you choose to. After Nishimiya is bullied to the extent that she finally leaves school, Shoya is labeled as a bully and becomes a social outcast. The guilt he experiences after being victimized himself, and after knowing the pain he caused Nishimiya's family, we realize the severity of Shoya's regret that was shown to us in the opening scene with his attempted suicide. Once Shoya reconnects with Nishimiya, we witness the start of a journey with the hopeful destination of reconcile and self-acceptance. We witness the lives of classmates who are bullied and the lives of the bullies themselves. The secondary characters have a subtle depth to them. Miyoko goes to an all-girls school and is noticeably thin with a slightly different hairstyle. None of these characteristics about her are brought up directly in the narrative, but it's easy to piece these elements together and come to the conclusion Miyoko is who she is now as a result of what happened in the past. She shares similar qualities to Nishimiya and Shoya, the victims, like not being able to look people in the face. Ueno seems to have not changed much since her childhood, and that quality, the lack of inner development, can be inferred as denial. For all these years, Ueno has refused to change because she's presumably been telling herself that she was never wrong, that Nishimiya was the one at fault by not trying to look at the world from her perspective. Most of this can only be assumed because we can only view the secondary characters from the lacking perspective of the protagonist who has difficulty looking at people for who they are. But that's how the world works. We will never understand anyone's true intentions unless we're willing to make ourselves vulnerable. But why would you ever want to put yourself in a defenseless situation when you know how cruel the world can be? Through this idea, it's not hard to imagine how someone subject to bullying is willing to accept guilt and blame for anything. Characters, people who are subject to bullying jump at the opportunity to apologize because what reason do they have to believe they aren't at fault? When you're punished and mocked by society for no reason other than being yourself, you are growing up believing you are broken. Words have the power to kill. Words have the power to bring happiness. But sometimes saying nothing, for better or worse, has more power than you can imagine. When Shoya enters high school, he covers his ears and mentally crosses out the faces of everyone around him, representing his lack of trust in others and his perceived idea of how people are fake. At the end of the movie, Shoya finally uncovers his ears, allowing him to see the world clearly, allowing him to hear the reality of the world around him. He hears laughter, and he hears criticism, and overwhelmed with emotion, he can't help but break down and cry. Because Shoya learns you have to be willing to accept the bad in order to hear the good. Humanity is imperfect. We do things for our own benefit and act as if we're not. We do everything in our power to justify our actions as good, even if it means putting someone else down. We glorify our actions because at the end of the day, we're scared of being alone. We're scared that if someone finds out that we're flawed, if someone finds out that we've done something wrong, we won't be forgiven and we will be shunned in their place. It's only when we're put in their places that we can come to the realization that we're all imperfect. That in order to develop friendships, in order to live in this world where hate and love coincide, in order to understand one another, we need to be willing to listen.